right, welcome everybody. Welcome to this LinkedIn Live. It's great to have all of you here, and let's really jump into it. Usually I'm used to having these be interactive, but because the way LinkedIn has set it up, and I'm not blaming anybody, it's just the way it is, it's going to be more lecture style. You have an opportunity to type in your comments and I'll be able to see those comments. Glenda, great to see you here. I see some other people too here. Welcome everybody. And let's get right into this so we can get going here. 1 second while I share my screen and we get the PowerPoint going. And again, thank you all for being here. All right, so the title for the LinkedIn Live today is The One Move You Keep Not Making. It could be closing a sale. You know, you need to talk to somebody that's very close to being a client. It could be the price that you're trying to set on your programs or your services, your products. It's the hard conversation that you know you need to have, or the hard decision you need to make. And it could be finding the one decisive move you keep avoiding. And my intention is that you'll discover some access. If not, really make the decision, make the move as soon as possible, if not today. And a couple of intentions for today, then I'll introduce myself. Those of you who don't know me, you want to name the one move. Find the single decisive move you've been avoiding. Sometimes it's really hard to really see what it is. Then I'm going to give you access to seeing the blind spot, understanding why that move has stayed invisible to you. And then you get an opportunity to leave with a tool, walk out with something concrete that you can use tonight or today as soon as possible. This is going to be useful, not theoretical. And I'll actually talk about 2 live cases. Some people have reached out, give you some real distinctions and some plain language that you can use to move forward. Okay. So how today runs, we'll talk about the idea of blind spots, the one move you need to make, 3 tools you can use right away, 2 live cases, your questions. If you have any, feel free to type into the comment box with any questions. And then ways to go deeper, we'll talk about that as well. So who am I? My name is Sunil Bhaskaran. I've had 30 plus years mentoring more than thousands, tens of thousands of leaders across 6 continents. I'm the founder of the Global Communities Company and the Global Business Mastermind and the 200,000 plus member community that I own. And I'm an engineer by training from a very long time ago, turned coach and advisor. I've done organizational work within companies as large as Compass, Cisco, and Comerica Bank. I'm also an author of 2 published books on Amazon and 2 more coming up in the near future. Again, a pleasure to be here. Just a little bit about me, what clients have said. This is a company that I work with called Compass Care based in California. We experienced a 150% increase in size over 2 years. My instructions and training left an indelible mark on how they relate to their clients and their staff. And if you want to know more about me, of course, you can check out my LinkedIn profile for those of you who are on LinkedIn. So a little bit about the context. You could say that there are different kinds of knowledge. One kind of knowledge is what you know, that most of you, I hope, know that you know how to speak English, right? So that's something you can act on. Like, you know your English, you can speak it. Those of you know Chinese, you can speak on it, you can act on it. And I'm going to give you this first tool here. It's called the XY. The reason I call it the XY is that once you discover 2 things, the X and the Y, I'm going to explain what X and Y is here very soon. Once you can distinguish what you're avoiding, the move, with a seemingly honorable intention, Y, the disguise. So you could say that you avoid something. I'm going to give you examples so you get clear about this. So X is the move you avoid. And Y is the honorable disguise. You could say that you avoid X, whatever the move you're avoiding, with an honorable intention of doing something. So the example is you avoid asking for business with an seemingly honorable disguise or intention of building the relationships. You don't want to ask for the business because you feel it might destroy the relationship. It might upset, so you don't ask for things because you're brought up that way. Or maybe you made a decision at this point when you asked for it, someone said no and you felt bad about yourself. when you distinguish what this X and Y is, some of you may be thinking right now, what is it that you avoid? What is the move you're avoiding? And you might want to break it down simply to whatever decision you're avoiding right now. And I promise you, there's almost always, in fact, always, I should say, a seemingly honorable intention why the disguise that kind of covers it up. So you avoid doing something in order to do this honorable thing that you think you're doing, right? So you don't ask for the business, or you avoid asking for the business with a seemingly honorable intention of building the relationship. So you don't want to destroy the relationship by asking for the business. So this is the first tool, the X and the Y. So I call it the XY. But all you have to do is solve for X and Y, right? So that's XY. I'm going to do some examples of this too, okay, very soon here. The second tool is what I call the 4 horses of death. It's not the mood that traps you, it's how you relate to it. So there are 4 primary moods that kind of get between you and making the move. It could be guilt. And in guilt, the mood is like you did something wrong and nothing will fix or atone for it. So you feel like you have to keep suffering in order to atone for something that you did wrong. So there's guilt. So there's a feeling of guilt that gets between you and making the decision, or asking for something that you really need, or asking for the sale, etc., or making the decision to hire somebody or fire somebody or address something that's a problem. So it could be guilt stopping you. It could be fear. And it's how you relate to the fear. So you overreact or you escape into distraction. So you distract yourself rather than confront the very question you need to answer. It could be resignation. And in resignation, it comes to the point where you say something to the effect of, nothing is possible. So I fake optimism. Sometimes when you ask people, how's it going in the business? Say, it's going fine. It's fine. So there's a kind of like a pseudo optimism that covers up the resignation. You don't want people to find out that you're resigned because you want to have an honorable intention of appearing that you have things in order. You don't want people to worry maybe, or you want to look good. Or you want to maintain your reputation. Frustration is the 4th horse of death. So in frustration, you say things like it's hopeless, so I just need to work harder. So your working harder becomes like a cover-up for the hopelessness that really is going on there. So what do you do with this? Sometimes you just have to really recognize. There's a lot of power and value in recognizing which of these 4 horses of death you may be in. You may be all 4, maybe some combination. But it's always used in recognizing and having the awareness first. A lot of people tend to relate to power as having utility or use. And on the surface, it seems like knowing that you're guilty doesn't have any use, but it actually does. The more you can recognize that it's guilt that's running you, or fear, or some inappropriate relationship to fear, or resignation or frustration that's running you. Now, you want to note that it's not the mood that's stopping, it's how you relate to it. So a lot of people have guilt, but they're still very effective in the face of their guilt. But you want to start noticing how you relate to your guilt. So if guilty feelings come up, do you continue suffering? Do you keep complaining about the same thing over and over again? It could be an indicator that you're caught up in a guilt cycle. Or in fear, instead of confronting something, you tend to go into long-term suffering. Tell people there's always a fork in the road, where one fork leads to long-term suffering with short bouts of joy here and there that makes the long-term suffering kind of tolerable. So you tolerate long-term suffering. The other road is you confront something and it's short-term suffering in order to have long-term joy. A lot of you may know what I'm talking about. You may delay doing your taxes, for example, or addressing a situation. And then when you address it head on, and you actually resolve it, you ask yourself, why didn't I do that sooner? I could have resolved all that suffering that I did. Then there's resignation. Resignation, you think it's just not possible, so it's hopeless. So sometimes you go into fake optimism. but you're really suffering. There's something that's nagging you in the background, but you're not quite dealing with it. And the truth is, in your private moments, you think it's hopeless. What's the point? I can never make a difference. So what's even the point of doing anything? But you do fake optimism, because when people ask you how your life's going, you say things like, it's going fine. But really, you're suffering and you're worrying about stuff. Then there's frustration, where you say it's hopeless inside, internally to yourself. But on the surface, you just work harder. You keep working harder. You keep doing the same things over and over again, expecting a different result. But really, you're operating in a more honest state of hopelessness. Right? So you don't quite look and stop and look and see, what do I really need to maybe not work so much harder, work smarter? Of course, you hear that all the time, that you need to work smarter. But people rarely get the distinction of how to move out of frustration to working smarter. So there's a lot of power in at least getting aware of where you're at. If it's guilt, fear, resignation, and frustration. Feel free to type in questions if you have about any of these points. Happy to answer on the chat. Third tool is the 5-minute commitment. You could see that this is the freeze that breaks at the smallest possible move, not the whole project. So it's like, how do I just take the first step, one easy step to move the game forward? 5 minutes of the exact thing you're avoiding. An example is, for some of you, I know you reached out to me and you said, I really want to fix my pricing and my offers so they are more attractive, but also I want to start charging more. You may be stuck in that. And of course, there could be an XY, it could be guilt, it could be frustration, it could be one of the horses of death. But the small thing to start right now is maybe draft the 2-line message that takes 5 minutes. The 2-line message about your pricing. So I'm charging this much because I provide this value, as an example. And the move gets made today. You want to start today and do that. Just a small little step, right, that you can take. Now, if you're stuck with what small little step you can take, reach out to me on the chat and I can help you with that, okay? A couple of case studies. These are real case studies. People have reached out and changed their names just to preserve their confidentiality because they asked. Jenny, I need better terms with a client for my consulting business, but I'm afraid to bring it up. The XY could be that she's avoiding proposing the new terms with an honorable intention of, again, protecting the relationship. Because she doesn't want to destroy it, because in her mind, she thinks proposing new terms will destroy the business relationship. Happens a lot, doesn't it? The horse could be fear. So she's relating the fear in a very inappropriate way. She runs the worst case in her head and stays quiet. So she suppresses herself. Now, sometimes you just got to face the fear and then figure out the one thing you can do to move ahead. Some of you, the one thing may be the big thing. I know some of you are big players. Some of you want to start a little small. It doesn't matter. As long as you take some action to move it forward and you distinguish what the horse is and you look at what your XY is, you're moving forward, okay? And the third distinction is something I call standing in the rain. This is being willing to feel the discomfort, being in the rain, and being willing to experience what could be discomfort, but may turn into comfort later on as you get used to the rain. Some of you may know the song called Rain by the Beatles. John Lennon wrote the song because he loved going into the rain. And he noticed some people didn't like going into the rain. So he wrote this beautiful song called Rain, where you learn to go out into the rain and feel the rain and start being okay with the rain. Initially, it's uncomfortable, but as you get used to the discomfort, you actually get used to the rain. So you can actually build this resilience of being okay with the discomfort and then doing what you need to do anyway. And this might require you having engaged conversations with people that are truthful about what it is that you're avoiding, what discomfort you're avoiding, and then taking small steps or big steps to feel the discomfort and doing the action anyway. The 5-minute move. Draft the 2-line terms note right now and send it within 24 hours, which is what she did. Suffering, done. End of suffering for Jenny. So the decisive move is have the terms conversation, really. Just request it. There's a lot of power in asking for something. You can always ask, or you can even promise. Those are the two communications moves you can make in life or work or in relationships. It resolves almost anything that you have in terms of a problem or a challenge. Not everything, but almost everything. You can always ask for something or you can promise something. And you can promise something contingent on someone accepting a request from you. So very easy ways of resolving things, especially issues between you and someone else. Case number 2, Terry. I spend a lot of time analyzing and researching, and I never get to getting things done. Some of you may call this analysis paralysis. You spend a lot of time market research, you spend a lot of time interviewing people, but then you never really get any marketing done or sales done, as an example, if you're in business. So Terry's case, the XY could be, and it was in this case that he agreed, that the X he's avoiding is the decision and the decision to actually ship the product. Yeah, the product that was really good, a product and a service that was really good and really in demand. But he had to decide to ship it the way it was because it was really quite good enough. And his honorable intention that was covering up why he was avoiding was, I'm just being thorough. He believed in being thorough, and he had this belief from a very young age because he made a lot of mistakes when he was young and he was told about his mistakes by his parents. He didn't want to lose the love of the love of his parents. So he adopted this winning formula of being very thorough, being very careful before he did anything. But the price he paid was decisiveness, being fully self-expressed, getting things done. So the disguise is the more information that you think you need to cull, that becomes the place to hide from the actual decision. The freeze in between is settling. He waits for a certainty that never comes. This is the awareness you want to start noticing. Those of you who are kind of like perfectionists, you're waiting for a certainty that never comes. The work lives in the in-between. There's an old saying among coaching circles. It's about maybe 20 years old. It says, done is better than perfect. Some of you are waiting for perfection to occur. That might be a little bit in the fantasy world because you're not even sure if your clients really need that level of perfection. So done may be what they need rather than perfect. Decision training wheels. Make one small reversible decision, something that you can reverse later on. Doesn't have to be a big decision, but a reversible decision now, and learn from the result. Set a decision deadline and ship, which is what he did, and he felt a lot better. He didn't quite ship yet, but he made a decision deadline that made him feel a lot better. And his team was a lot more grateful to me as well for his coaching that he got. So this is the other thing that you want to cover is the more indecisive you may be, the more XYs that you have hidden, you can almost count on that if you're running or leading a team, the team will probably have complementary XYs to you. So if you're a perfectionist, you may have a team member that's not so much perfectionist in trying to get you to do things. And this is where conflicts occur in teams. You're the perfectionist, but other people just want to get it done, and you start butting heads. So this is another place to look from is in your management of people, what kind of XYs you have and how you can deal with that. Okay. So a couple of things here that I already put in the LinkedIn chat, so you can actually get it. You just have to scroll through the chat and see it. And the first thing I want to offer to you is it's totally free. It's called the Blind Spot Assessment. And the link for it is in the chat. A few minutes online. I think it takes about 10 minutes to fill the questionnaire. And it surfaces the 3 top patterns that are quite reshaping your decisions. The one you cannot see from the inside because you're inside. So you have to look at it from the outside. The quiz or the assessment helps you do, and you find the link again in the chat. If you're up to reading stuff, and I'm going to be doing an audio version of this very soon as well, you can get one short idea a week from my Substack or the Whisper newsletter on LinkedIn. And the links, again, are in the chat. I think the link that I put in was only for the Substack, but that's pretty good enough. Okay, do that. And it's completely free for you to do that. If those of you are a little bit more serious and you want a session with me for 30 minutes, there's a paid session and we can talk one-on-one. But what's stopping my intention is to help you move past at least one stop or get an awareness about it or what's going on to stop you, and a small little plan or a 5-minute thing that you can use to move forward. If you're interested in that, again, the link is in the chat box. Those of you who are super committed people, I know some of you already done this. And if you want to launch the move and actually get going, I have a program where you can do so. This is a paid program. And there's a longer session that we do, plus a 14-day written follow-up. So I actually exchange texts with you or WhatsApp or chats to help you move forward in whatever you're getting stuck in, okay? So those are the options for taking action. There's a recording that will be available right after this program. You'll get the replay if you've registered. I'm sure you have to. You have to register in order to watch this. You may want to watch this again or pass it to someone who keeps not making their moves. I invite you to do that. Keep your questions coming and post them in the chat. I'll get to as many as I can very soon. You can do so even after we're done here. And bring me the move you keep avoiding. And again, you can use you can go get your blind spot assessment done for free with the assessment link that's in your chat box. Okay, so let me get back to my screen here. All right, so any questions? Let's see. Elizabeth Dougal. Hey, Elizabeth, all the way from Brazil. Oh, you might be in San Francisco, I think. Okay, Elizabeth, let's see here. I think it's fear. I'm preparing to launch a new offering for my coaching practice. And the recommendation for my path forward is to put myself out there, videos, voice, etc. And I've built my entire career on being behind the scenes and word of mouth marketing. Totally get it, Elizabeth, and know you a little bit too, not a lot, but I know you somewhat. And that's a pretty common issue for introverts. If you look at and if you believe the psychological category that people, I'm very much an introvert. My wife knows me very well. Other people will probably nod your head. And so the first thing is to create some awareness. If you look at transformation, you could say that there are 5 stages. The first stage is to create awareness. So the awareness is looking at your XY, and there are other distinctions too, but looking at your XY and looking at what your force of death could be. So remember, it's fear, guilt. You said it's fear. So you want to look at fear as what do you do when the fear comes up? That's the thing to look at. What is the exact avoidance mechanism? What is it specifically that you're avoiding? Is it a decision to put yourself out there? Is it something about the video that stops you? You have to have a script. It has to be perfect. Is it something that bothering you about your voice? There was a time when I thought my voice was too basal. It's going to scare people off. I was corrected on that very quickly. But what is it that's holding you back? Is it a decision? Is it something, is that decision something you're fearing? Why? What's the worst that could happen with that decision? What is the worst that could happen with the video? What is it exactly about the video? What is it exactly about putting yourself out there? Are you afraid of being found out about something? Are you afraid of heckling from people? Are you afraid of being judged in a certain way? What is it specifically? The more specific you can get, the higher the awareness. So you know exactly what you're fearful of. There's probably an XY in there too, like something that you're avoiding with a seemingly honorable intention of fulfilling. So one thing I had that's close to the fear part was that I avoided my ex that I do from time. And most people have about 11 to 12. One really on the ball client, he had up to 18 XYs that he discovered so far. But there's a limited number. One of my XYs is that I avoid the fullest self-expression of who I am, like putting myself up on stage, etc. It used to be the case that I would do this. I would avoid that with a seemingly honorable intention of honoring my parents' sacrifices when I grew up, because we grew up very poor. So I didn't want to put myself out there and try to be all big, and because we grew up very humble. And I felt like stepping beyond that would be like dishonoring my parents. You know, it's so deep, isn't it? So it could be an XY, you say fear of judgment. So yeah, you want to dig deeper, a little bit more deeper into this. What is that judgment exactly? And who is it coming from? Is it from the audience? Is it from a parental figure? Is it from a coach? Is it from maybe a conglomerate personality, woman leader that you admire, that type who might say something negative about how you teach or what you teach. I'm just giving examples, but look and see what it is. The more you dig deeper into this, the more awareness you have, the more power you have. Again, a lot of people think of power as utility, but there's greater long-term power in understanding yourself and bringing awareness to it. The more awareness you dig deeper into, there's a point where you might get a little pissed off when you uncover something. That's when you know you're getting into the juicy stuff. If you're not getting pissed off, it's like too theoretical. Gloria Steinem said it very well. She said, the truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off. And I'm all for the quick piss off. And I say this with respect because it can be painful to dig deeper into that. But the deeper you look, you just have to maybe sit back and look at this. What is it in the moment that I'm fearful? Who is it that I'm most fearful of judging me? And why? What is it behind that? One way to look at it too is to go back in your past to see the earliest moment in your life where you had the same experience. I know for me, it was kindergarten with Mrs. Gabriel, who was my kindergarten teacher in Singapore. And she said this thing about me being weird, because I was a very self-expressed kid. And I suppressed myself after that. I was very scared of speaking up or raising my hand. Yeah, Glenda said, fear has to be right or too much work to redo, not giving quality experience. Yeah, so there's a cost to the fear. You want to notice as well. Couple of things here. You want to dig deeper into the fear and see where it may be sourced from. Yeah, I think it's an old conversation, old in many else. Yes, it's a very old conversation. It's good to really sit back and it'll probably come back. You don't have to do psychoanalysis on yourself, but you just have to distinguish it came from the past. Usually by the time you're 17, all of these XYs have already been cast into stone. So it probably, something like judgment could happen at a very young age. Could be happen at the age as early as 4 or 5 when you have some consciousness and memory. And so you made a decision on yourself and that it's fearful. You experience fear. Then the fear probably came because you had the threat of losing someone's affection or support, life support, especially if it's a parental figure or even a teacher sometimes. So it's a fear of losing respect and acknowledgement. And so the more you can go back and see what that event is, it might actually clarify. In fact, a lot of times my clients get an experience of unlocking everything. It becomes disentangled. Yeah, so being confident was collapsed with egotistical when I was growing up. Very good. Yeah, that was similar to mine. You don't rise above the grass because that's just not what you do in our culture. It's just not right. Everyone's the same, right? But what that does is it kind of limits who you are. So you made the decision to limit who you are because you didn't want to lose the affection of someone else or some parental figure, et cetera, et cetera. So you had these two worlds collapse. Being confident and egotistical are the same thing. So the $1 million question for you is, are they really the same thing? That's one question. The second question is when you collapse two things like that, usually there's a payoff and a bunch of costs. So the costs are pretty self-evident, right? You get to squelch yourself, you're suppressed, you're not making as much money as you know you can. I know you make a lot of money, but you could be making way more. You could be funding several great projects. You could be fully self-expressed, joyful everywhere you're at. I know you like to dance, so maybe your dancing will have a breakthrough effect. But all of that is cost. You could say expenses on the expenses column. But there are payoffs. The payoffs could be you stay comfortable. You get to be comfortable. Suffering can be a very comfortable place to be in for a lot of people. And someone says I froze. God, I hate this technical stuff. Am I moving? Now, can someone just comment and say if I'm moving? Just hope I'm not stuck anymore. Can someone comment and just see if I'm moving. Am I moving? Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm assuming you guys can see me. All right. So quick limit to be safe. Yeah. So being safe is a payoff and it's a source of comfort, right? So the source of comfort and it's a payoff. So you get to be comfortable and for a young kid to make this decision at the age of 4 or 7 or even 12 or 13, you don't quite have the mental capacity to really think through this. Oh, thank you, Stephanie. What you do is you have to make a quick decision as a kid because your support system's at stake. And thank you very much, LinkedIn user. Been pleased with that. Why? I have an XY about LinkedIn now, but anyway, I'm going to move on. All right, thank you, Elizabeth. All right, thank you, Ruth. So that's payoffs and costs, and this is where you got to dig in because some organizations probably told you about what payoffs and costs could be in these situations, but you got to really dig in and look at the specific costs and the specific payoffs. So you get to be comfortable when you're about to present by holding yourself back. And so you can do one-on-ones and networking referrals instead of being out there, putting yourself slightly at risk by transmitting videos to a mass audience, right? There's a bit of a risk involved in it for sure. But the payoff, the cost is obviously that you do not do that and you're not fully self-expressed. But the payoff is that you get to be safe, comfortable. You may even get to be right about something. There's a payoff when people are right. They've done experiments in this. You actually your brain gives off dopamine sometimes when you get to be right about something, a position, and you hold on to a position. It gives you a pleasant effect when you're right. You can feel it sometimes when you're right. And you prove yourself to be right in an argument. There's a temporary release of dopamine, but it's temporary. And that's like a payoff. But it's really nasty because it's a short-term payoff, but it looks like a great payoff. But then you're back to misery after 5 minutes. So I'm not picking on you, Elizabeth, particularly I'm saying in general, right? Yeah, so thinking about cost it's good. This is where the truth starts setting you free. And welcome to my life where I can see why it's freezing because this focus on this particular camera is a little off. And my apologies again for the technical difficulties here. But the payoffs, my point is the payoffs, you got to dig deeper into the payoffs and really look and see what specifically the payoffs are, in what instances, where does it happen, with whom, what are the costs, who are the people you have those costs with. Does it cost you things with your family, with your kids? Who in particular? A certain lover, a person that you know, a certain peer that you work with, etc., etc. So when you get very specific about it, you can start really seeing the cost and the payoff balance statement. And it's usually not very pretty. That's the thing that really pisses me off. Welcome to my world where I came to, because if you don't bring that intensity, like most people don't do it, then you continue to suffer for a long time. Okay, LinkedIn user, I need to increase the rate, charge a client I've had almost 2 years, but I've been avoiding the conversation because we had a great relationship and I don't want to mess it up. Very common. I've always felt uncomfortable having conversations about money. Very good. That's your last statement is very key. So you want to notice, like, when it's the earliest age that you had that discomfort. It might be as long as you can remember, but try to remember early conversations that you had. It could be about money, or it could be about abundance, or it could be about spending money, or your assessment tool, and dig deeper into the XY as well. That's what I would recommend. If you want to reach out to me and have a conversation, that's fine too. Going back to LinkedIn user, and you don't want to mess up your relationship with your clients. So you want to look at the horses of death, right? It's a resignation. What are you resigned about specifically? Do you think, on the surface, it may be you're afraid to lose the relationship, but it could also be some resignation about your value, like the true value you bring to that client or to other clients. I'm not saying it's the truth. I'm just inviting you to look. It could be guilt. Like you feel like you're doing something wrong by asking for more money. And that may be tied again to an earlier event when you were a kid Guilt usually occurs when you're a pretty young kid, did something wrong, your parents admonish you, you think did something wrong. So you have to continue suffering in order to atone for that original sin, right? So it's very valuable when you notice it. The more you distinguish it, the less power that guilt has on you. The other thing you would look at is look at what you can do tonight in terms of writing up, maybe do a quick write-up on what your values that you provide and how you can justify the increased value. It'd be a first step. I'm not saying it's an ultimate step, but it's one step that you can take to break apart that conversation. I call it a conversation or a thought form in your head that has you stop talking to your client. You want to look at the costs and the payoffs too. You have a certain relationship with your client right now, and it's costing you X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F. You want to write down what those costs are by suppressing yourself and not asking for what you're worth. It probably is suppressing you in your level of service to that person too, or the freedom you have with that client and with other clients. Because if you're trained by one client to suppress yourself, guess what? You're going to suppress yourself almost everywhere else. Might even be affecting your relationship with your children, real, okay? And reading your language, because the language says a lot to me. In ontology, they say language is the house of being. And I'm looking at, I need to increase the rate I charge. So there is a need there. I wonder what the emergency is there that you need to get. That could indicate a cost. Why is it that you need to do that? Is it because you're feeling suppressed, or is it because you need the money, or you know you're worth more and you know that's costing you? You got to dig deep into that. I've had almost for 2 years, that's interesting phrasing, but I've been avoiding the conversation because we had a great relationship. We have a great relationship. Okay, you have it right now, and I don't want to mess it up. So what defines a great relationship should be a question for you. See, does a great relationship mean suppressing, asking for what you need? Maybe you're attached to him saying yes to increasing your rate with him or her. So sometimes when it comes to running a business, you might want to take on the idea of not being attached to the result. There's a more profane version that I'm not going to share with polite company, but it's like the experience of not caring about the result, but caring more about you being expressed with this person, so you can at least say that you asked for what you needed. I hope you're following my line of coaching here. So you may need to really look and understand what a great relationship looks like. Because it doesn't sound like a great relationship right now. It sounds like a comfortable relationship, if you don't mind my honesty. It sounds like a comfortable relationship, but it's not a great relationship. To take it to a great relationship, you may need to make the request you're suppressing and be okay with where it lands. Now, if he fires you as your consultant or whatever, that may be on her, on him. And I understand that might affect your earning power, but my bet is in asking for the money, in the long term, it's going to pay you back. It's going to pay you back. I hope you get that. Yeah, defining what a great relationship, good point. What does a great relationship imply? What does it look like? A lot of people get caught up in the definition of something. I'm more interested in what I call a distinction is. A definition of a great relationship, you can define it and it'll give you some use, but a distinction is where you look at what the phrase great relationship evokes. So for example, a chair, as a definition is something you sit on. So you sit on it. But a chair, when you look at it as a distinction, opens up a whole new world. It's like a chair in a circle. Chairs in a circle is a community coming together. Similarly, great relationship, what does that evoke? It evokes something for you. There's something that you really want in your relationship that's beyond what you have now. It's like you have an okay relationship, but a great relationship is what you're really craving for, I bet. I'm not a betting man, but I would bet $1 million on that, right? A great relationship. So that's really the future that you want. And that's probably the cost that you don't have great relationships. See, I have great relationships because I can ask for anything from my friends. And I'm willing to get a no. The interesting thing is I get a lot of yeses, and that pisses me off sometimes because I feel I'm not asking enough. So you got to be willing to play that game, right? Not to annoy friends. You can't annoy your friends and just stretch the relationship a little bit. But you want to start being playful about it. I invite you to playful and intentional way to create extraordinary in your relationship. So now it's ordinary. You want to bring it to extraordinary and have it be great. So the invitations, look at, write down tonight in a journal form, or even right now, what does great really mean? Period. Not just great. What does great really mean to you? And what does a great relationship mean? And that would be way more interesting. I'm nailing it. It's comfortable, not actually great. Yeah, that's correct. So comfort is the great booby prize, ladies and gentlemen. You can have all the comfort in the world, be very comfortable in your home, and you're outside your home, you have a big flood. And there's the enemies are at the gate, but you're comfortable. So anyway, I have a nasty sense of humor. I apologize, but that's the truth. And that's what comfort can look like sometimes. In a nice hot water, but suddenly you realize you're the one being cooked in the kitchen. So you want to really start at this comfort mean. And what's the being in order to have a great relationship, or in order to have greatness, whatever greatness means to you. So the word great has some kind of thing for you, is my bet. I'm not talking to you face to face, but I can get a sense of that. Yeah. Or any other questions, comments? Just put some comments, show me what you're learning. That'll be really great. You can continue to put stuff into the chat. I'll check it over the next couple of days here. I get pings anyway for anyone who puts stuff into the chat. Happy to engage. See Stephanie here. Also remaining detached. That gives you freedom to ask for what you want or go in different directions. Yeah, the skill of being detached. What does detached mean? Detached means you're not attached or vested too much in the outcome. It's very interesting. An old mentor of mine was really brilliant. Was my main mentor. Said he couldn't care less about how it turned out. I say, how's it going to turn out? You did all this great work on this project. You look at me and go, Sunil, it's going to turn out like how it's turned out for millions and millions of years before. It's going to turn out exactly how it turns out. Not any different. The point is, you want to play 100% in the moment. This is the origins of Zen. Zen thinking is 100% in the moment. So you give your 100% in the moment. And when you play like that, it's interesting. People who play like that, you can watch high-level soccer teams and sports teams. When they play in a detached manner, they're playing in the moment. They're giving 1,000% in every second, every millisecond. You can see the intensity that which they play. They read each other's moves, etc. They're so present, and they don't care about how it's going to turn out in the end. Although they do care, but it's not what they're really focused on. You want to play a game like that to give you a chance at moving forward, especially those of you who are a little analytical and get stuck from time to time in perfectionism. That's not a bad place to look from. It might be a little scary, but it also might be the most exciting thing you ever do. All right, got down to alone and abandonment, Glenda. Yeah. What is that? Is that, oh, okay, yeah, I think I understand. So something happened where you felt alone and abandoned when you were a kid, and you made a decision on how you're going to be in the present. What was that decision that you made that's right now? And that decision probably puts you in what I call the box. Whenever you have an XY, or you have a horse of death, you're immediately in a box, which is what, and that box is something you cannot see. But you want to notice what that box is. How are you limited by that decision that was made at that age? The box is infinitely interesting, ladies and gentlemen, because it tells you exactly how far your country borders go. Because beyond that, nothing's possible. So for some of you who want to have millions of dollars, really your country boundary ends about $60,000, as an example. Some of you want to have an outstanding marriage, but your boundary is really being by yourself. So you want to start looking at what, and that box is dictated by some decision that you made at whatever age that was, Glenn. Yeah, yes. Okay. Then you can maybe, for the sake of other people, you can distinguish what age that was, what decision you made, right? You don't have to, you don't want to. But that's the kind of thinking. If I can leave you with one thing, it's important to dig deeper. A lot of you have done programs, done some coaching, done some workshops. Real transformation is not from some momentary insight that you have or one day. A real transformation comes from a dedication to the journey. The journey is infinitely more valuable and more joyful too than getting the result. Because the journey is what's going to keep you having future results, future experiences, future clarity, right? If you only bank on the result teaching you something, you're not going to learn a lot from everyday life. Everyday life is where you are struggling, and the deeper you can go into the journey of really confronting, okay, why was I stopped by that? What are the costs? What are the payoffs there? Why does it matter? What's the big deal about that cost? Why does that cost so limit me? What is the box? What is the nature of the box I'm in? If you can define that box, that's a good starting point, because now you can see your boundaries. If you know your boundaries, then you can make a choice whether you want to go past those boundaries in a more realistic way. Yeah, probably around 8 years old. Yeah, that's not uncommon. 8 years old, a lot of things can happen at 8 years old. Sure, a lot of things happened when I was 8, for sure. But you made a decision at 8 years old that's still running you today. So you just want to notice that, not as an invalidation of the 8-year-old or your present self, but that it's just what human beings are like. The more you engage in this, the more compassion you have for a lot of people. I have a lot of compassion for people because I dug really deep into my XYs and my horses of death almost every day. I can be arrogant from time to time, but I can't afford to be arrogant for too long, because at some point the XYs are going to get me too. So I'm in the game as much as you are, maybe a little bit more aware, but I'm still in the same game because I'm just as human as you are. So probably around 8 years old, you want to see what kind of box from that point, the 8 years old, kind of kept you in. It is a box. And it's not a bad box, because it probably made you safe in some ways. It probably prevented you from getting into trouble in some ways. It probably made you successful in some ways. See, for some people, that box is a double-edged, because in some ways it made you successful. For Elizabeth, it could have kept her safe from ridicule so she could grow a little bit more. But the time has come for her to break out of that box, because the box is a limit. No matter how you look at it, it's going to limit you. And for those of you who have really grown up and you want more in your life, and life is now becoming more urgent because you're more matured up, you realize you may have a few decades left. That box is now a limit to your life, and it becomes more urgent to break out of it. Okay. I invite more comments. If not, we're going to finish up here. I thank you for the opportunity to make a difference. And we'll be doing this LinkedIn Live at least once or twice a week. I'm very heartened by your support. Again, I'll show you, let me grab those and put that. I'll put all these offers that I have, including the free assessment that you guys can do. I'll put it in the chat, in the comments, so you can look at that your own time. Okay. All right. I think that's it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.